And I'm fucking livid that we are stuck in the timeline where Alex Jones is right. Kind of worse.
Oh no! Oh, okay, no.
Why aren't the Amish afraid of COVID? Because they don't have TVs.
As I said, democracy is a system that reinforces authoritarian ideals.
I hope I don't get canceled. Talk to Steve.
Being a victim of a tragedy doesn't make you an expert in public policy.
Well, I mean, AOC is a drama queen and she's full of shit.
Remember, they lost the Afghan war 10 years ago.
You brought a freaking guillotine.
They said, you don't get to tell us no, we're the state health department, and I said, hell no.
It wasn't making Christianity better, it was making rock worse.
What the fuck do you have on your face, Olivia?
You want to make the world a better place? Have some babies and raise them to not be stupid.
I remember thinking, man, governments are not going to like this shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, activists and people of the internet, thank you for tuning in to another episode of O'Donnell for Liberty. As always, I'm your host, Justin. Before we get started, just remember whatever platform you're listening on, whether YouTube Live, Odyssey, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, or now available live on the air at lrn.fm, you can help grow the show by liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. If you enjoy the content, you can join our production team by visiting patreon.com/O'Donnell for Liberty. Again, that's patreon.com/O'Donnell, the number 4, Liberty. If you want to keep in touch between shows, follow me on social media and join our community Discord channel where you can chat with other fans of the show at any time. All these links can be found in the description of the video or podcast that you're listening to, as well as on o'donnellforliberty.com. So check that description in the link to make sure you check it out today. First and foremost, shout out to sneckswag.com, your favorite home for all your best Liberty merch. Right now, great new selection of winter hoodies just in time for colder weather to come in, and you can show off your Liberty messaging and wear your propaganda around. So make sure you head over to sneckswag.com to pick up your merch today. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the comedy of reality and how to laugh at the world we live in, because shit's just fucked, and there's no other better way to put it. We're going to take some questions, so make sure you hit that like button, leave some comments, and tell us what you think in the chat. Give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, host of the Porcupine Podcast and comedian, Adam Nutter. Adam, thank you for joining us tonight.
What's up, Justin? Thank you for having me. By the way, before we start, Snacks sounds like an app for fat people that sends snacks to your house. Like, get this app, Snacks.
Now I got an idea, man. I think we just call that DoorDash here in New Hampshire.
True, that is DoorDash.
All right, man. So how you do? Like, I usually like to start every show asking everybody how they came to the world of libertarianism, how they got involved in the liberty movement. How the fuck did you ever become a cop?
Yeah. So thanks for being here. So yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but I talk about it all the time. If it gets asked. But like, so what happened was I was 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And I was in comedy. I started comedy at 18, lived in New York City, like one of the 2 best cities in the country, world even, to do comedy, right? You have all the things there. I love comedy. Growing up as a comedy nerd, I was like, this is my path. I want to do stand-up comedy. 18, do my first open mic. I'm like, I'm in love with it. So I do comedy for 2 years. Now I'm like 20-ish. And I grew up on Staten Island, New York, which is a very conservative part of New York City. The only conservative part of New York City. It's full of city workers, full of dumb Italians and Irish people like me. You know, dumb fucking guineas being like, yo, what are you doing? The fucking dumps over there, Wu-Tang. You know, that's what we used to fucking do. So it was always kind of beaten to your head growing up, like, oh, city job's a good job. You get benefits. You retire at 41 years old. Like, you don't understand. Like, again, my parents were conservative, you know, so they always grew up like, yeah, it's a good job. It's a government job. It's good. It's fine. Just, you know, do that shit. So I never really looked at the cops as being like this bad thing at 20 years old living in Staten Island, New York. Like, you know, like people have to understand where I came from. Like, no one was ever like, the cops are bad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I never once had any interaction with the cops ever. Like, I know, I get it. Staten Island, you know?
I grew up an Irish kid in the Boston suburbs. You grew up like you're joining the military.
Yeah.
Like,
I had 3 choices in life: fireman, cop, or sanitation worker. That was my path. Yeah. But I went to college for I went to college for history, actually, because I loved history. And then didn't matter. Didn't even graduate. So at 20 years old, I'm still doing comedy. I'm like, oh, I'm going to need money. Like I don't think I can make money in comedy because like I panicked. Like, you know, you're just a kid and you're like, oh, and like your parents are around you, everyone's around you, like, how can you make money doing comedy? It's so hard, it's so hard, it's so hard, it's so hard. And I'm like, fuck, I guess I need a job. And I was like, oh wait, I have a bunch of family who are cops. I have some friends who are cops. You know, they don't seem to mind it too much. Right. And then I was like, oh, I always hated bullying and like, you know, stuff. And I was like, oh, once you get on, like you stop bullies, like that's what you do as a like,
you become the bully.
Yeah. So that's where I always say is like you get into the academy and you're like, I'm here to help people. And they're like, you're not here for that. Like, you know, they're like, you severely misunderstood what you're here for. And you're like,
right.
Oh no. And then you're in it. Right. So now I'm like, I did the academy, and then you think to yourself like, that's probably what they tell you in the academy because like, you know, by the book shit. But I'm sure once you get out there, it's a lot more like, nah, it's chill. You know, it's like a lot more like, wrong. It's like it's definitely not chill. It's definitely the opposite of chill. It's hot. It's hot in a bad way. Like it's just like, hey, make money for the city. We don't care about you at all. We don't care that we don't care that you don't care about people. Like it's like we don't care about people. It's like they're just pawns, you're pawns, everything's a pawn. And then real quick you learn that and you're like, fuck, this isn't what I expected at all. Cause like I never believed in drug crime, even when I was before a cop. Like, you know, I never believed in like but again, I didn't truly understand what I was signing up for. I really thought you sign up and like you chase bad guys, like true bad guys. Like you're chasing like murderers and like theft and like, you know, domestic violence people. It's like, no, it's like, yo, go bust that guy's balls for weed. It's like, fuck, dude, I don't want it. Like,
yeah, you grew up watching Law and Order and then you end up walking a beat.
Right. And you're like, oh, now I'm just harassing people. And then like I also worked under Kelly, which was under the stop and frisk error. And yeah, and they made you do that. Like straight up, like there would be a sergeant and he'd be like, go stop those people. And you'd be like, fucking for what? He's like, because I this. And you're like, this seems illegal. You know, but like you can't say no because then you're technically disrespecting a lawful order and then you could get fired. And like also at that time, like you have a family and like, you know, so you're a certain amount of time in and now like you have your own interest at play. Like, well, I can't just fucking not support people with, you know, without money. And then like you're at this weird moral conundrum. So then at the time I was like, I have to just figure out a way to like get off patrol at least and like go do like K9 or something like that where I'm not doing it. Like K9 New York, you don't do anything. It's not like the rest of the country, but like you don't do shit. So I was like, maybe I could just do that and I'll just retire with the dog. That'll be fun. You know, I was just thinking like all these options. And then I got into my third on the job car accident. And it put me out. Like I fucked up my head for the last time. And the doctors, the NYPD doctors were like, you can't do this anymore. I was like, no, I definitely can't. Like I got severe head trauma. I got like memory loss for like short-term memory problems. I have like temper issues, a fucking all that shit, like severe headaches. Like I have like issues making judgment calls. Like now it's like I got fucked up from head injuries. And also I played football and did mixed martial arts before that. So it was literally like 15 years of head injuries, but 3 bad car accidents that really put me over the top on the job. And they were like, all right, you're done. I was like, fucking thank you.
So you're telling me what it finally takes to leave the force and become successful at stand-up comedy is brain damage.
Yeah. It helps with comedy, you tenfold.
Right. I mean, I guess if all you're doing is laughing at yourself, it's just funny to begin with. But all right, I mean, on the job, did you ever have shit as a cop in New York that like really pushed you over the edge? Like I know I tell the story time to time of incidents that I had in the military. When I finally came to like my snapping moment, turned down my reenlistment papers and like, no, I'm fucking done. Fuck you and fuck all of this. Like what we're doing is illegal. This is not right. Did that ever like cross you as an NYPD officer?
The stop and frisk part, right? But like I was still not super aware of like the true law like I am today. Like once because you're just kind of in the zeitgeist of things and you're like, I feel like this is wrong, but like you're telling me no and everyone else is telling me no. So maybe I'm wrong. Like, you know, you don't know.
So, I mean, that's what it was for me. Like I was in the National Guard going through college after, I was 6 years into the military at this point, and I was still in school, and I was doing a lot of watching Julie Borowski and Rand Paul in my free time, and I was kind of going down the path to libertarianism, but it was still showing up every weekend drill, showing up from our National Guard missions, and just like following orders, doing what I'm told. And it wasn't until somebody told me I was wrong that it clicked with me. I'm like, oh no, this is fucking wrong. Like, I get it. And it was a protester. It wasn't somebody in my chain of command. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't a family member. I was running a security detachment in Boston when we were locking down the city and enforcing martial law in the city of Boston. And a protester sits down in a chair in front of me and my lieutenant and starts reading 1984. My lieutenant tries to detain him, and I just burst into tears laughing.
Right.
And lieutenant's like, what's so funny? I'm like, he's reading 1984. And then as I had to explain the plot of 1984 to a college-educated second lieutenant in the United States Army, I'm like, oh, shit, we're the bad guys.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, there is massive, like, just like, dude, like I said this to my dad the other day, and like I'll never forgive myself for like the stop and frisk shit. Like, I never like really arrested anybody. Like, I mean, there were some lawful ones, like off of robberies and stuff that we did. Like, there were lawful stuff. Like, let me put that out there. There were actual legitimate stop and frisk that had to be done because, like, that guy was like, that guy robbed me. Like, all right, we gotta stop that guy. You know what I'm saying? but like the other ones that were just like, we're standing in front of like a project and people are trying to get to their homes, and the sergeant's like, stop that guy, and you're like, that's racist. But like, so like, I'll never really forgive myself for like those things I've done. Even though, yeah, and you could be like, well, you didn't know, and I didn't know, but like, I feel like it's still not really an excuse. So like, I kind of just, it is what it is. It sucks, and like, I'll never forgive myself. I have to live with that for my whole life. But like, I was like aware of Ron Paul in like 2008, but like not. I was like the second wave of Ron Paul guys. Like, I was aware of him, and I dug him, but I wasn't super fucking into it because I was 21 years old and like going through the fucking police academy. So I had so much of my fucking play at the time. But, you know,
people fucking hate this when I point this out, but like, it was 2012. Like, I was aware of Ron Paul in 2008, but it was like 2012 when I started to get into the libertarianism stuff, and it was the Republican debate, and it wasn't Ron Paul that really flipped me over. It was Gary Johnson, and it was because Ron Paul seemed so fucking insane and crazy to me at the time in the debate when he was going on about legalizing heroin, and Gary Johnson's on the stage with him. He's like, well, I mean, let's start with weed. Yeah. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, oh, that guy seems reasonable.
Right.
Nowadays, I'm sitting there on Twitter like, shut up, Gary, you pussy. Bring back Ron.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, so I was aware of Ron. I was like, okay, this guy's making sense. By the time 2012 rolled around, I was like 4 or 5 years in, right? I think by that time. And I was full blown like, yeah, legalize everything. We shouldn't be doing this. Like, people shouldn't be in jail for like fucking drugs. It's crazy. And the cool, like, I will say this, me and a few other guys, we're all kind of had the same. I worked midnights, and most of my career I worked in a pretty white precinct. And I don't mean like the cops. I mean like the people who live there. Like, I worked in the 122 of Staten Island. It's the middle of the island, and it's like mainly middle class white people, a few poor whites, heroin whites I call them, down by the beach. And then also, oddly enough, we have this place called Toad Hill, not TOAD, TODT. It stands for death. It's Dutch. It stands for Death Hill. It's some of the richest property in all of America. It's on Staten Island. It was in my precinct. So we went from that to like heroin trash. It was crazy. So I never really had to deal with racial shit except for my first year. Right. And I just kind of was just arresting people that look like me. So I never really had to deal with all that shit. But I will say, like, me and a bunch of other like-minded cops who work midnights together, we started policing the way we thought it should be done. So like, we would only kind of focus on like, I never had a drug arrest in my life except for one that was forced on me. Like, I just started arresting like domestic violence people, which they deserve to go to jail. like that's independent. I don't give a fuck what, you know, like, oh, I'm a fucking libertarian. Yeah, I am too.
Except Bill Burr.
Except Bill Burr, right? He has a pass on everything. But like, you know, that like theft, violent crime, like stuff that we all believe should be illegal anyway. So we would just focus our attention at that, and like, at least I was like, well, I could at least try to make Staten Island better this way, and not, you know, arrest people for drugs. I would just turn a blind eye. If you found it, just like, I don't see it.
It's funny to say, like, I mean, domestic abusers should definitely be in fucking jail or buried beneath the jail, wherever they go. But it was Libertarian Twitter. It was the women of Libertarian Twitter that tried to cancel me a couple weeks ago for repeating a Bill Burr joke on Twitter.
Well, they're dumb.
about maybe there is a reason to hit a woman. Not saying you should do it, but
Dude,
you're giving
listen.
me a really good reason.
Not only that might be the most truest statement of all time in anything ever said.
Right.
It's never just. I mean, I'm sure there are animals out there that just do it. But I'm sure it's that much. I'm sure, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure it's usually like, you're a fucking cunt. And then the guy's like, all right, you know what? Like, again, I'm not justifying it, but it's like, I get it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, why can't we ask the question?
Right.
That's what it really comes down. And that's what it all came up with. Like, there was a whole big spiel going on in like Liberty Twitter drama about somebody hitting his girlfriend. And I'm like, why? No, you're supporting domestic abuse. I'm like, no, I just asked what she did. Like,
right. Yeah,
like,
it's like they could both be wrong. One could just be way wrong. You know what I'm
right.
saying? It's like murder. It's like if you get into an escalate, if you get into a fight, and then someone escalates to murder, it's like, well, you both were fighting, but that guy pushed it over the top. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. All right. So you leave NYPD because you're too brain damaged to wear a fucking uniform and walk a beat anymore, and you end up landing in comedy. You said you were into comedy from when you were younger. I mean, like,
I was doing stand up. I was doing
stand up.
I was doing stand up for like 2 years. I mean, it was all like open mics, and I wasn't like get book.
Yeah.
But I had like a handful of actual book shows in the first 2 years, and mostly just open mics for the first two. But yeah, so from 18 to 20, I was doing comedy. Like I was like in the city all the time.
Now, like, how do you break into that? Like, especially in somewhere like New York or the Bay Area, like the two big comedy meccas in the world. How do you fucking break into that?
Well, it's easy because there's 1,000 open mics a day.
All right.
Like that's how. Like it's actually harder outside of those cities. Like here's the thing. You could get better outside of those cities, but like you're not gonna really get a lot of stage time in. So like in New York, like especially in New York, because everything's so close together, you can take the fucking train. Like, so you could do I would do like 5 open mics a day sometimes, like from 3 o'clock to like from like the first one sometimes be like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the last one would be like midnight or 1, and I would just hang out in the city all afternoon to all night. So I was like 18, 19. What else am I doing? I'm in college. And I'm just like, let's go to the city.
I feel like 4 o'clock, nobody's drunk enough to laugh at good humor.
No, no one's even there. you're doing an open mic for just fucking 2 other comics. Like it's fucking fun. But that's how you get, your cadence and your timing and stuff. And that's how you get good. So
yeah, I mean, all right. Comedy to me, it's been like always been like the fringe of media where it's like the last vestige of what's unacceptable being acceptable. Like I'd mentioned Bill Burr. Bill Burr got a lot of shit when he did his whole skit about like reasons to hit a woman. There's plenty of them. You just don't fucking do it, but acknowledge that they're there. And people lost their minds over it. Have you followed any of the drama with Dave Chappelle this week?
Yeah. Listen, man, this woke culture is. This is why I hate the left and not so much. I hate the left and the right annoys me, but I hate the fucking left, the progressive left, because woke culture is trying to legitimately tear apart the fabric of what America is.
Right.
And it sickens me and I hate them. so like the fact that Dave Chappelle is a black dude who's not aligned with their fucking bullshit agenda, they just called him a woke or a white supremacist almost. I'm pretty sure I said woke supremacist, a white supremacist. Like pretty much, they said he's using his privilege.
Yeah, it's weird because like he says right in the in his new special. Granted, it starts off with a banger of a Jew joke, and then it goes into an hour long of transgender jokes, and then manages to tie it back to the Jew joke to close it out. But he says because his last special, Paper Tiger, was like he had he called them the alphabet people, the LGBT.
That was Bill Burr.
Not Paper Tiger. Fucking.
It was Sticks and Stones.
Sticks and Stones.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the alphabet people. Like fucking LGBTQ WERTY fucking movement. He's like, and just ripped them to pieces, and the left lost their goddamn minds over it. And he came back he's like, I'm gonna do another special because fuck you.
Right. Yeah. It was even what he said on his last special about I'm done with this. Like I'm just gonna say it and I'm done with it. But like that bit about the baby.
Yeah.
He's like, you can shoot someone in Walmart and murder them. and then you have a bunch of hits. But you insult a gay man or a gay person and career's over. And it's fucking wildly true.
Right. And it's Sadly, that's not even fucking comedy. That's just real life. The
Yeah.
baby shot and killed somebody in a fucking Walmart, and the left is mad because he made a gay joke.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, so
not that he shot and killed somebody.
I just got blocked by John Cusack today on Twitter because which is a random block. But he just blocked me because he was shitting on Barstool Sports. I'm a big fan of Barstool Sports. I bet with them. I like a lot of their content. I have a lot of their merch because I win a lot of it via betting because I'm a degenerate gambler. But like, he's acting like he doesn't know who they are, and he's like, "It's a bunch of frat humor." And he's like, "That's what you like." I'm like, "Okay, cool." You associate with pedophiles, legitimate pedophiles and rapists. And you don't like the jokes they make. You fucking piece of shit hypocrite. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
That's why I hate that side. Because they actually, it's either they truly don't see the hypocrisy, or they're so just immoral and virtueless or right? Yeah, whatever the fuck. Like they just stick by their guns. Like, no, I'm gonna fucking say it. And I'm like, hey, before I insult somebody, I go, can this be said about me? Okay, no. All right, then let me fire it out because I don't want to be a hypocrite.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the thing that I remember when Barstool Sports, when I was in college, Barstool Sports was just literally a local blog out of Boston that wrote fucking trash about local schools. Like, one of their biggest headlines that they ever had was about a kid I went to school with who got his ear bitten off in a bar fight in Alston. Like, and that was the big, like, their big breaking news. And now they're a fucking media empire.
Dude, Portnoy is legitimately rich. He's fucking
like,
crazy.
The motherfucker conned his way into the White House for an Oval Office interview with Trump.
But dude, like, I am a fan of Portnoy, dude. Like, he says what he fucking believes. What he did for small businesses, by the way, is truly admirable. Like the fact that he saved hundreds of small businesses along with the rest of the Barstool Sports when the government did nothing for these people, and then they came after him, all the people on the left, for saving businesses. It's, dude, fuck these people. Honestly, fucking die, kill yourselves. I fucking hate them. Like, I really do.
The left went after Robert Kraft last year at the height of the pandemic because he decided, after the state of Massachusetts ordered a bunch of N95 masks for medical facilities in Massachusetts at the height of the pandemic that were seized by the federal government in New York on transport because the federal government needed to reallocate them. Mm-hmm. Robert Kraft took the Patriots team jet, flew it to China, loaded it up with masks, and flew it back to the United States, and convinced the Alaskan governor to let him land and bypass customs so that the feds wouldn't seize it.
Yeah.
And the left is like, oh, he broke the law. I'm like, he got you your masks.
Dude, they don't care. They just want their, like, fuck, man. By the way, the left should love Robert Kraft. He supports sex work, and that's like their thing.
Right. Trying to, like, if you, I mean, it's all alleged. He denies it, but.
I mean, video says otherwise, but sure. You know,
and the video was thrown out as evidence. No,
I'm a fan of the guy.
I'm a fan of the guy, but I've been rooting for Tom Brady just because I kind of want to see Belichick suffer.
Belichick's a cunt.
Yeah, like the greatest coach of all time, but I feel like he needs a reality check. And
I don't think he's the greatest coach of all time. I think Tom Brady winning without him proves that a lot of those years were Tom Brady.
Sure, but then you look back at some of the years, like it's weird. So like the first Super Bowl, definitely Belichick.
100%.
Second one, definitely Brady.
100%.
Third one, Brady sucked, and the defense took them all the way there.
Agree.
And so it's weird to see like what the mix was. And to this day, I still say Tom Brady isn't the best quarterback to ever play the game. Tom Brady is the best offensive coordinator to ever play the position of quarterback. Like, and you look at like the season where Brady went out. Brady had a season-ending injury in game one. Matt Castle comes in and goes 11-5 and almost makes the playoffs. Loses in a fucking third-round tiebreaker to the Dolphins. The same era, Peyton Manning goes out at the beginning of the season, and the Colts go 1-15.
Because they had Curtis Painter, sir.
But look at Matt Castle did nothing anywhere else.
I know. I remember when he started for KC and did nothing. Now, Tom Brady was great, except for when he played the fucking Giants twice. What's up, bitch?
Listen, the most disrespectful thing the Giants have ever done to their fan base, I think, was retiring Eli Manning's number a couple of weeks ago. Because let's be honest here, Eli Manning did not deliver those 2 Super Bowls.
How
Eli
dare you.
Manning backstepped backwards into those. I mean,
How
he
dare
is
you.
the lesser Manning child. I remember even like when Peyton Manning was playing the Super Bowl and it was against the Saints, and they were interviewing Archie Manning on the red carpet going into the Super Bowl, and like, who are you rooting for? And Archie Manning's like, well, the Saints. It's my team. It's like, what about your son? I'm rooting for my team. And Eli's just sitting there next to Archie looking like depressed and sad and fucking like he's the lesser child.
I will not stand by for this Eli slander, sir. How dare you? Even though it might be accurate, I won't say it is. I will sit here and say he won those Super Bowls for us as the MVP twice. You know what? I'm doubling down. Hall of Fame, Eli. I got your back, buddy.
God. AJ in chat says Peyton is the GOAT. Eli is a fun little brother. Fun little brother that you can toss around because, God, he ended up going to New York. Like, if you're going to hold out for a draft, if you're predicted to go number 1 in the draft and hold out and say I'm going to refuse to play, why are you picking the fucking Giants?
I mean, he won 2 Super Bowls there, so it turned out for him.
Okay, and outside of those 2 seasons, he didn't even have a winning record.
That's not important. I know what we got to talk about. Hey, let's change topics. All
right. All right, so back to leftism and destroying the media. Back to leftism destroying the media. It's like I feel like comedy's been the last bastion of like what has been able to survive it up until now. I was just watching earlier. Eric July just put out a new video about Superman's gay now, which I don't actually have a problem with characters becoming like gay or representation in media of LGBTQ characters in pop media or in comic books. But the way they're doing it is like they're really forcing it. Like they're issuing press releases and paid promoted articles like Superman's bisexual. And like the cover art is Superman making out with a dude, not Superman like stopping an enemy or saving the world.
Right.
Like it's infested so much of our like media and our art and our culture. Like it's only been a matter of time till it gets to comedy.
I mean, it is. it is. Look at Netflix. Like,
right.
They will put out people I've never heard of, and I'm pretty like people I never heard of you. Fair. Okay, but like I'm also funnier than some of these people they push like out to the like public because they don't care about funny anymore. Like the industry doesn't care about funny. They go, do you fit a mold of gay person of color or like disabled or whatever?
Right.
Or like, it's not like, hey, are you funny and also happen to be gay? Like, I'll give you an example.
Right.
Tim Dillon.
Hilarious.
They hate Tim Dillon though. Why?
Because he's actually funny.
Because he's funny. He doesn't fit the agenda. He talks. He's anti fucking woke. He's anti fucking establishment. He calls it how it is. And they're like, nope. Even though you're gay, they're like you're an evil cis male because you fucking don't think like a, you know. But like again, go look at these Netflix specials. Besides Dave Chappelle and like Bill Burr and like Rogan and those guys and Segura, but you have like so and so from this country, and you're like, who?
Yeah, I mean, Tim Dillon also did do a bit and a skit about assassinating Obama because Gary Vaynerchuk told him to.
Yeah, that is true. Tim Dillon's
and it was hilarious. Like it was hilarious. No, but you're right. It seems every time I do log into Netflix, like the first thing that pops up is a new special, and it's like by who? Like okay, people I've never heard of.
I'll give you another example. Late night TV spots used to be like the thing. Right? Like when you were in comedy, and this is even like when I was in comedy, like when I first started at 18, 19 years old, like that was like 2004, 2005, 6-ish. Like people were like, I need to do Letterman. I need to do fucking, not Fallon at the time, Conan, whatever. Like I needed, I gotta do a tight 5.5, 6 minutes. That's my goal. That's my ticket to fame. And it really was at the time. No one gives a fuck now. Like people, like you, me, people watching, like no one's like, I wonder who's doing the fucking late night spot on Fallon.
Right.
Like if you go and you look at the comics Twitter following, right? Which I'm not saying Twitter following is everything, but they have less than I do. Because no one, and they've done 5 late night spots. Right. And you're like, wow, you should probably be famous or have way more than 700 Twitter followers.
It's
But
like,
no one
oh
follows
man,
them because they don't have a real following. They're getting pushed through the industry.
you did Fallon and Trevor Noah, but have you done Rogan?
Right, Rogan would get you way more followers because people see through bullshit. So these fucking, again, woke losers go to do fucking Conan or whatever, or Kimmel, and they're like, oh, and then I was like, fuck Trump. Right, guys? And it's like, people are like, right. And then it's like, no one's gonna, it's fake. People see through that fucking cult bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we're not gonna follow you. Like, you're not saying anything. Like, comedy used to be counterculture. And now it's just culture. Like, it's like pro whatever the fucking establishment says. It's weird.
One of the ones that they almost got there. I felt like they were on their way back to being good with Saturday Night Live. And like, they haven't been good in forever.
Yeah.
They haven't been good in a long time. But like, it was in 2020 during the election. Like, all of a sudden, it's not about just going after Trump anymore. They started going after Elizabeth Warren. They started, like, the reality was they were going after whoever was relevant to go after. And that's something that I want to see in comedy. Like, if Trump's relevant, go after fucking Trump.
Right.
It's funny. If Biden's relevant, go after fucking Biden. I remember back when Saturday Night Live was doing bits about Biden, about Obama, going on about how he was a dictator, making up laws as he went. They had an amazing executive order skit about how Obama didn't care about the legal process. It was a Schoolhouse Rock episode about Obama stepping on Congress and writing executive orders. Yeah. And like, that stuff was incredible. During the 2020 election, they went after Warren, and they did it was a cold open, but the cold open was Warren giving her town hall about how she's going to pay for Medicare for all. And somebody's just like, those numbers don't add up. She's like, all right, you ready to get red-pilled, kids? Money isn't real. When we're talking about trillions, you might as well just make it up. It's just a promise made by a computer. None of this matters.
Right. Well, the whole Shane Gillis thing, which I'm sure you know about. Are you familiar with the whole?
Not familiar.
Okay, so this is, you know who Shane Gillis is?
You're gonna hate me. I'm gonna say no.
Oh, goddamn. Okay, Shane Gillis is a very funny comic out of PA, out of like Mechanicsville, but he kind of got good in Philly, and then he went to New York, and like he won Philly's Funniest, which is like a competition I've never won in Philly. I've tried twice. I've never made it past the second round.
I'll say is I Google him, and the first thing that come up is a picture of Andrew Yang.
Right. I'm getting to it. So, so I'll do this a lot to unpack here. This is fun. This is fun to talk about. So, he got like in with like Legion of Skanks guys and like, all in that crew and stuff. He's hilarious. He has a podcast he does with this other very funny comic, Matt McCusker, who I know. I know Matt. I know Shane a little bit, but not really. They have a podcast called Matt and Shane's Secret Pod, which is very funny. Shane is not a left-leaning guy at all. He's a very just fucking down the middle dude, but like more like right-leaning kind of guy, but crushing all rooms. Like he would crush in all black rooms, he would crush in alt rooms, he would crush in regular rooms. Like he's legitimately a great comic. He randomly SNL asked him to audition for them. And Shane never wanted to do anything besides stand-up comedy. So he's like, I'll get it. I'll go. He's like, there's no way I'm getting it. He's like, I don't even really want this. He's like, I'm going to go. No way I'm getting fucking SNL. Right. He goes in, just does his set. That's all he does. He just does his stand-up comedy in the audition room. He fucking gets it. They hire him. So they hire him and like 3 other woke fucking shitty comics, right? Like an Asian dude, like a gay Asian dude, a chick, a two chicks, whatever.
Oh.
So as soon as the announcement of Shane Gillis getting hired, which was a big deal for guys like us, like, and that's like we want to get on SNL, but like, dude, like Shane, like legitimately a fucking funny comic actually getting on SNL and going to be seen. That's amazing. That's truly amazing because it's been shit, like we just said, right? For how long? This piece of shit comedy journalist, which isn't a real thing, by the name of Seth Simons, drops this article about how in this clip of Shane saying the word chink in a bit.
Oh God.
So the bit was essentially like him and Matt were talking about how Philly's very broken up into like very distinct sections, like, Chinatown, it's Little Italy, like, and they were saying like, how do you think that was divvied up back in the day? And Shane was like, there's probably some guy in like the 1800s being like, I don't know, let him live over there. But he says the word, right?
Yeah.
That's what they clip. They clip that. Along with Seth Simons dropping this article, this shitty piece of shit alt left comedy theater in Philly, Good Good Comedy Theater, also drops the article. Like, they co-sponsor the article, whatever the fuck. They also dropped their own, being like, he's racist. Good Good Comedy Theater got sued by a friend of mine because they wouldn't pay him the money that they owed him. Like, this is like a woke lefty group of comics and improv people who fucking don't pay comics. They only hire and book white comics, and all their rooms are full of white people, and they're the ones who are like, we're all racist. You know what I'm saying? So SNL gets wind of this. It blows up on Twitter. It becomes like a big deal. The other cast members and other hires, like the other gay Asian guy, comes after Shane. All these guys come after Shane. SNL's like, you need to apologize. Shane's like, I don't really want to. Shane puts out some bullshit apology. Wasn't really an apology. SNL fires him anyway. So they hired him on purpose to get a more conservative audience, and they bended the knee to the mob and fired him. And then when you go into the guy Bowen Yang, who is the other guy they hired, his old tweets, he said some pretty racist shit in his time. So do some of the other members of SNL. Like, it's wild, the hypocrisy. So Shane then gets like dropped by his agents, like gets harassed for like a fucking 2 years by people on Twitter. But he's selling out all over the road because he's fucking hilarious and people support the fuck out of him. So, like, go listen to Shane Gillis.
Yeah, I think Saturday Night Live is just best summed up. It was a Norm Macdonald quote. Norm Macdonald wrote it about Saturday Night Live. He's like, I used to be on Saturday Night Live, and then one day I get called down to the office, and they're telling me they got to let me go because I'm just not that funny. If I worked in any other field, I'd have a great lawsuit, but I work in comedy, so they tell me I lost my job because I'm not that funny.
Right.
That was 2 years ago. Now they're asking me to come back and host the show. I didn't get funnier over 2 years. So, like, how could I be fired 2 years ago for not being funny enough, and now you want me to host the show? And then I realized, oh, your show just sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But no, I feel like it's just been embraced in the outrage culture, and the outrage culture in all, like, mass media, and not just comedy, art. Like, one of my favorite artists, like in print and like painting artist, Therese Nielsen. She used to work for Wizards of the Coast, and she did a lot of work for Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. She got canceled because they fucking called her a homophobic TERF because of something she said. She liked something on Twitter. She didn't even say something herself. She like liked someone else's tweet and ended up getting canceled. And because she was homophobic, the left on the internet decided to dox her and her wife. Yeah,
it's what I'm saying. It's like it's their
that kind of shit.
Hypocrisy and lack of rule following is mind blowing. It's mind blowing. Like, it's really they really make up the rules as they go along. And there's no, as I'm saying, there's no moral compass to them. They're pieces of shit.
I feel like this outrage culture is infesting far more than we really want to admit. Because like I'm not the biggest fan of the Mises Caucus historically within the Libertarian Party and the Liberty Movement. And back when I was on the LNC, me and Michael Hayes had a big, really public grudge and beef because, like, I kept saying the Mises Caucus was doing shit wrong, and like they didn't bring any actual value to the table as far as activism and advocacy and what they were doing. One of my friends has commented before that it'd be hilarious if anybody in the Mises Caucus ever actually read Mises, because most of what the Mises Caucus members spout off is directly contrary to what Mises wrote in a lot of instances. But like a big part of like their recent surge has been like combating wokeism in the party and wokeism in the Liberty Movement. And unfortunately, they keep getting proven right.
But people as someone who's part of the Mises Caucus, we do. And I would like to point out that we just got proved right again in Pennsylvania. It's public now. The executive director for our state party, who we can't see his contract, and they was just hired by the board and whatever, openly admitted to being a part of the Cathedral Caucus, who openly have attacked and doxed multiple members of the Mises Caucus and the PA party. So good job, guys.
Yeah, they keep proving the Mises Caucus right, and it's not even like shady shit like that. I'll just chalk up to politics. Like shady shit that happened in like New Hampshire, I'll chalk up to politics. Shady shit that's happening in fucking Massachusetts, I'll chalk up to politics. Because like honestly, I see that as a sign of growth. If we're dealing with corruption, it means we're getting big enough to have corruption.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's still so little power that people are fighting over. It's fucking retarded to me.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it more along the find that like the fact that like bad libertarian takes and fakertarians have platforms and have built their entire platform on being woke outrage against people that are still like supposedly on the same side of fighting against the state for human liberty.
Dude, first of all, I bet you half of them are fucking plants, and the other half who aren't, they're just fucking retarded. And like you say, oh, they have like, do they have they have a platform because we give them one? Let's be honest. I blocked most of them and I stopped engaging because that's what was helping them. Like if you watch when what's his fucking dumb face Hudak went on Break the Cycle, and
That was
they
hilarious.
it was the funniest thing in the world, and they all just ambushed him.
Yeah.
He went to start his own stream. And the only reason he had a bunch of views, I mean, also as many views as downvotes, obviously, but like, is because we went over there and was like, let's see what these idiots are saying now. But like, if we didn't, they would have 4 views, and it's Archie, Hudak, the fucking asshole with cat ears, and the British douche. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it'd be those 4 same people. No one gives a fuck what they really have to say. Andy Craig's a fucking pussy. No one cares about his fucking true opinion. Like, it's like all these guys are fucking valueless. They contribute nothing to the party. They don't grow the party. I've brought way more people to the party personally, myself, and you have, and all of us have, than any of those motherfuckers have. I will put my fucking life on it.
So funny story about Archie. Back when I was on the LNC,
he asked for money. That's a funny story about Archie. What's a funny story about Archie?
Back when I was on the LNC, I was the Region 8 representative. I represented all of New England, New York, and New Jersey. That was my region. Those are my states, and I handled them. And I had a really good working relationship with most of the state chairs in the region because I took the mentality of all my job is on the LNC is to keep the organization running, make sure the lawsuits are filed and the checks clear, and that we stay the fuck out of the state party's business. Like, leave the state parties alone. The LNC isn't supposed to be there to be top down. One of my favorite relationships was with the Vermont state chair at the time, Jeremy Ryan, because nobody had heard from him in 2 fucking years, and he left me alone. He never had a single fucking question, never had a single concern. I would have to track him down and call him, hey, Jeremy, is there anything Vermont needs from the LNC? He's like, nope, we're good. Bye. Click. I'm like, perfect. Then I come to find out that like Vermont had negative membership growth for like four years over a year. And they didn't have a single candidate, and they were actually in danger of losing their automatic ballot access because somebody didn't do a single piece of paperwork. Like Vermont's ballot access, like we fight ballot access tooth and nail in states like fucking Pennsylvania, Ohio, Massachusetts, New York, New Hampshire, and it's a process. Vermont, they just have to go to the secretaries of state's office and say, we have 10 people registered as libertarians. We want ballot access, please.
Right.
That's all they have to do, and they forgot to do that year.
That's fucking great.
Like, and I get a call from Archie Flowers, who was given my number by the Mises Caucus, because Archie Flowers was the chair of the Vermont Mises Caucus at the time, saying he wanted to get involved and turn Vermont around. And I helped Archie get elected state chair in Vermont as a Mises Caucus member.
What the fuck happened?
I don't know.
I mean, it's a hard 180.
It's like the hardest 180. I think it was like he ended up not being a big fish after he got elected state chair in the Mises Caucus. Like, I think he had expectations that he was going to be relevant and important, and then he found out that no, this is just the dictatorship of Michael Heiss, and everyone does what he says.
That is not true. That is not true.
It was for a long time.
That is not true.
It was for a long time.
Not true. As long as I've been a member.
Yeah. But there was a point where I was banned from their Facebook group for just like commenting. I'm like, I mean, I think the comment I had was like, say the caucus has a problem with Heiss. Is there any mechanism to replace him as the dear leader? Banned. That was early on in the days of the caucus.
Well, it's not a. What is it technically a pack? I'm bad with all this shit. Like, what is it, a pack? Or it's not technically a pack, right? I don't know. I don't know the rules.
Yeah,
I'm not here for those.
I don't think most, and that really is the problem. And like I've said this to some of the Massachusetts kids too, because when Massachusetts was going through their drama, and like the state party was trying to kick out members just for being Mises members, kicking them out of the state party, like they come to me for advice and help because I knew the bylaws. They don't know the bylaws, and that's my actual big problem with a lot of the Mises people is you're trying to take over an organization that the majority of the Mises members know nothing about, have no history with, don't know how it works, and don't know how it's supposed to function. But on the flip side, the people who do know how it works, do know how it's supposed to function, aren't willing to use it to do anything to advance their cause or advance their agenda. And so it's a real catch-22, and that's why this past year, I made the decision when like Mises members in New Hampshire are like, we want to run for state committee offices. I'm like, well, they're not fucking doing anything, so you can have it. I'll help.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I can only really speak on behalf of like Pennsylvania and Bucks County, especially because where I live right now. But like there are a lot of autistic dudes and chicks who are fucking like bylaws down. Like they have their shit. Like they are like they want to be part of the bylaws committee. Like they're like, no, I read everything. Like I want to, and I'm like, yeah, I trust what you're saying. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not here for that. I'm here as a mouthpiece and to like help grow membership and to like, you know, fucking fight, combat these lefty libertarians trying to tear us apart. Like, that's what I'm here for. Then you got, like I said, the autistic people. I'm autistic too, but we get the real autistic people, you know, going after like the bylaw stuff. And like, again, you have like, especially again, I'm only speaking on behalf PA here, but like, you have a lot
Are you autistic or do you just have
no,
CTE?
not really. I'm just kidding. I have ADD or something.
CTE? Concussion syndrome?
I have 100% have CTE for sure. There's no way I don't. There's no way I don't. Scientists say if you play like any level of high school football and up, you probably have CTE. And I played from 12 to 25 years old. So
Jesus,
I for sure have CTE. There's no way I don't. But yeah, so I will say like the Mises guys are getting a lot better with like the bylaw stuff. Like they're really, because I think that everybody's understanding like, oh, we got to know this to like do work and we can't look stupid. So like I think a lot of guys and girls are like really getting their shit together with it. But like then a lot of people like me who are in the Mises caucus who are like,
I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. Like yeah, like I don't want to hear bylaw when I go to the meeting. There's a meeting tonight, by the way. I just didn't go to because I was doing this. But like there's a meeting tonight, and when they start talking about bylaws, I'm like, oh, bylaws. Like, I don't care. I don't care. It's just that's not my thing. You can't be involved in everything in this fucking party. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't focus and care about everything the same amount of levels like of care. You just can't do it.
No, absolutely. And like I do think one of the things that's holding back the Libertarian Party so much is the 50-year emphasis on structure and rules. It's weird because we're a bunch of fucking anarchists and we have the most complex rules governing how we interact with each other and how we engage in activism. And like I make this point often, it's like if I could change one thing, I would be telling libertarians like before you pick up a copy of Human Action or For a New Liberty or Anatomy of the State, please pick up a copy of Swarmwise by Eric Falkovich, which has nothing to do with philosophy, nothing to do with politics. It has to do with running a decentralized organization where people are empowered to just go do shit.
What's this called? I'm writing this down.
Swarmwise by Eric Falkovich, the founder of the Icelandic Pirate Party.
That's cool as fuck.
You're right.
And if their logo isn't cool, I'm not going to read this book. So I'm just telling you that right now.
They founded the Icelandic Pirate Party on like a Reddit forum with just a bunch of shit posters talking back and forth about an idea. And like 4 or 5 years later, they were the third largest political party in the European Parliament.
Jesus Christ. Okay, one more time the name of the book. One more time. Sorry.
Swarmwise.
Spell Adam. Jesus Christ. Swarmwise. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And it's for free. He's published the entire thing online for free.
Cool. Okay. Interesting. I do like reading different shit. Like I'm not like someone just to only read like fucking Murray Rothbard and like, you know, the regular, even though that one book right there is a copy of Economics 1 Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. Oddly enough, it is, but it's independent of what we're talking about.
Well, how many copies of Human Action do you own?
Just one.
Have you actually read it?
Yeah. No, I have. Yes.
So that puts you ahead of 90% of the Mises caucus.
But like, I also have a problem retaining things I've read. Unless I read something multiple times, and this is part of this brain trauma. I have a hard time retaining stuff. So people be like, "What's the thing?" I'm like, I remember. I gotta read it again. Like, I read Anatomy of State 3 times because it's 60 pages, and I still will forget chunks of it because I just can't remember it. Because
I have the exact opposite problem, and this might actually be a little bit of fucking autism that's not diagnosed. But like, if I read something and it interests me, I'll go fucking full blown Will Hunting on it. Like, just there.
I had that.
It's kind of annoying because especially when you read enough Hayek, you get to the point where Hayek starts contradicting himself. If you read enough Mises, you get to the point where Mises starts contradicting himself.
Doesn't everybody?
Often. Doesn't everybody does? The only one I've respected with it, like to the nth degree, is Nozick, though, because after Nozick wrote Anarchy, State, and Utopia, he followed it up a decade later with a book which he started with "I Was Wrong." But like those are the like weird takes there, and I actually wish more libertarians would read less. Because right now we have an epidemic of libertarians who are so like anal retentive about academic pursuit of liberty that they don't know how to get out there and talk to their legislators. They don't know how to get out there and run a community organization that changes people's minds or wins hearts and minds in their community. They don't know how to get out there, do a fucking stand-up routine that might get the ideas of fucking comedy and liberty across to people who weren't primed to hear it. All they know how to do is sit there and argue on Twitter about whether or not Mises was open borders or not.
Right. Yeah, it's a problem. But like another problem, I was talking about this with Reed Coverdale the other day on my podcast, but like he was saying, and I was agreeing, like a lot of libertarians are fucking awkward. Like,
yes,
just awkward dudes and chicks. And like, do you ever watch 2 libertarians try to fuck each other? It's the most awkward thing in the world. I watch, dude, at the fucking Fairfax Mises comedy show afterwards, I watched so many dudes try to fuck 2 of the same girls awkwardly, just awkwardly hit on them. I'm like, we can't take over anything. I was like we got.
Sir, I've been to Porkfest.
I was like, we gotta get better at just talking to people. Like I'm good at it because that's what I do, right? Like I talk. You're good at it. You talk, but a lot of us aren't good at it. And like even basic public speaking skills, like with even mic positioning, and like people think I'm joking when I say this, but like I was busting Mark Pizzacco. You know who Mark Pizzacco is?
No.
Great. He's a Montgomery County rep in PA, but he's fucking like a great voice of liberty, Mark Pizzacco.
Yeah, I can't keep track of you, Pennsylvania.
I know
there's like a fucking million of you.
I know there's too many of us, but like I busted his balls. I busted his ball so bad where he actually changed the way he holds a mic now for the better, because he used to do like speeches and the mic would be held like down here or over here, and he would talk out of the mic. And I was like, "Hey, Mark, grab the fucking microphone and track it with your mouth. Pretend there's you have tape to it,
right?
And like speak into it confidently, and like follow people's eye movement, like look at people, like hold the mic up to you." And then he watched me do stand up a few times. He's like, "Oh, I see what you're talking about." I was like, "Yeah." And now he does it like that, and it's so much fucking better. Like I feel like I need me and Robbie Bernstein, like other comics in the Libertarian Party, have to have like a class for guys running for office to be like, "This is how you hold microphones. This is how you fucking make eye contact.
Yeah.
This is how you like are witty."
I'm gonna give you the quickest masterclass in getting over a fear of public speaking that I've ever experienced. Okay. When I got out of the Army, the biggest group I'd ever spoken to was like my platoon in the Army. As a junior NCO, like 20 dudes. That like I would teach classes to those 20 dudes. I would fucking train those 20 dudes, and I was perfectly comfortable speaking to those 20 dudes that I had known for 6 years and been through some fucking weird shit with. Strangers, no good. Public groups, no good. Like I'd clam up this, this is fucking not gonna work. In 2016, I was working for Gary Johnson and Bill Weld.
Boo.
And I know. We all grow up. We all grow up at some point, all right? But this is like right after I got out of the Army. And I get asked to go run the booth for Gary Johnson at the Boston Hemp Fest in Boston, Massachusetts, which is on the Boston Common. There's about 300,000 people. at any given time on the Boston Commons, hundreds of vendors. It's one hell of a fucking party. Mind you, I just got out of the Army, had not touched drugs in years. Like, hadn't smoked weed since high school. Hadn't touched anything else in about a decade. And I'm working the booth, and one of the organizers comes up to us, and he says to me and Dan Fishman, who was my boss working the table with me, he's like, we had a speaker bail and cancel out, so we have an opening on main stage. We would like one of you guys to come speak on behalf of Gary Johnson on main stage, because Gary wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool as shit. And then, like, looked at the schedule, and it happened to be right after when Dan was already scheduled to speak on the second stage. And so Dan's like, yeah, Justin will do it. I'm like, I'll fucking do what? That's like 260,000 people. Like, wow. You're saying I'll give a 20-minute speech to 260,000 people? Like, fuck you. Wow. I go backstage with this guy, and I'm nervous as shit. Gives me my wristband. We're backstage, and I'm just like sweating, panic. I'm like, this is fucking terrible, terrible, terrible. The headlining act that year was Method Man. And we're backstage.
Staten Island again. What's up? We'll circle back.
Yeah, we're backstage, and this is Sunday afternoon. The Patriots are on. I'm sitting there just watching the Patriots game, nervous as shit. And Method Man's watching the Patriots game, talking to everybody and interacting with everybody. He's like, I'm hungry. You guys want some snacks? I'm like, I could have some snacks, Method Man. Yes, I would love some snacks. That'd be pretty cool, Method Man. And Method Man comes back with a tray of baked goods.
Oh, Method Man. So like him.
And I just house a couple of these baked goods. And then, like, I look up and Method Man's just staring at me, eyes fucking wide, because I had just eaten like 4 brownies. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? He's like, dude. I'm like, fuck.
I'm fucked.
And like 10, 15 minutes later, I'm getting ready to go up and speak to 260,000 people on the Boston Common. And as I'm climbing up the ladder, like stairwell thing up onto the stage, I trip and I stutter and I'm like, oh shit, I'm fucking high. And then this dude introduces me and just hands me a microphone. And I'm like, I'm really fucking high. Thunderous applause.
I was going to say,
and this, like, I just went with it, and I gave a 20-minute rant about ending the drug war to 260,000 people. And I get off stage, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't really that bad.
Yeah,
like I can do this now.
I would say anytime I do a comedy show in front of a libertarian crowd, and I'm like, I fucking do mushrooms. People are like, yeah. It's
right.
Only crowd. If I do that in front of normal comedy crowds, some people are like, all right, yeah, but libertarian crowd, they're like, fucking, like, I'm psyched for mushrooms. It's wild.
Yeah, no, and to this day, one of my favorite speeches I've ever given, and it's recorded. It's somewhere on YouTube. I don't know who recorded it and uploaded it. I can find it again if I really look for it. But it's when I was running for Congress in 2018, and I had completely forgotten I was booked to speak at an event in Concord, New Hampshire. And so the night before, I decided, yeah, I can do some psychedelics with some friends. This will be fun. And at like 6 a.m., the kid with my campaign manager shows up. He's like, dude, we got to be in Concord. I'm like, why? He's like, you're supposed to be speaking in an hour. I'm like, oh, shit, you better start driving. And I was still tripping balls. And I remember, like, the crux, it was a Second Amendment rally. I get there, and they handed me a copy.
You were on shrooms? Or
no, acid.
Oh, I don't do that.
I love it. It's my favorite. Not to glorify drug use for the YouTube censors, but I absolutely love it, and it's my favorite. I remember they handed me, I go up to speak, they introduced me, they handed me a poster with a copy of the Second Amendment on it. And the first thing I did was rip it up. And then ranted at this Republican crowd about how the Second Amendment won't save you, only actually exercising your rights will.
True. I just imagined you driving high in LSD through to like, why are all these Swedish fish on the road?
No. I didn't drive, fortunately. Right.
Dude, yeah.
So if we want libertarians to be less awkward, maybe we just need to drug the water.
Yeah, but with fun stuff, not fluoride.
Right. All right. It's been an hour. This has been a great show. This has been fun having you on, Adam.
Thanks, man.
Where can everybody follow you? I know your Twitter handle's there, at Adam Nutter. Where can they follow you? Where they can learn more? And you got your show?
Yeah, which is I think on right now. Yeah, just check me at Adam Nutter on all the social media handles. Please go check out my youtube.com/Adam Nutter. That's where I have my podcast, The Porcupine, with Justin. I'm gonna get you on very soon. I just gotta find a fucking date. Reed is on right now. If he wants to go check that out after this. But yeah, that's on there. I put some stand up on there. If you guys go to droptent.com/events, that's where I have all my stand-up shows posted. This is live, so this Friday, I'm opening up for the great Aaron Berg up at the Pop-In in Chalfont, PA. It's right outside of Philly. So anybody else in Philly, come on out. There's like fucking, I think 8 tickets left. That's it. So like, get that shit now. Yeah, so get it now. Because if they don't sell online, they'll sell out the door for sure on Friday. And then the 22nd, I'll be in Trenton or Hamilton Township, New Jersey, at the Ivy Tavern. Come on out to that. And then I have a bunch of other stuff down the road for sure. But yeah, I'll also check my comedy podcast, Cult of Us. That's also available everywhere. Go check out my podcast, Porcupine Cult of Us. Thank you.
All right. And again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. If you're tuning out right now, about to start live with the Tower Power. They have a really interesting show tonight. So go check out Tower Gang for the rest of your night. Until next time, be free. Thanks again for tuning in and joining us tonight. Make sure you hit that like button and leave a comment below to let us know your thoughts. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button on YouTube and turn on notifications to get alerted every time we go live. If you enjoyed this content, you can join our production team on Patreon by following the link in the description. And don't forget to follow on social media and join our community Discord channel by following the links in the description as well. The best part of all of this is the community that we're building and growing. So go ahead and join us. And thanks once again to our awesome sponsors and patrons for making all of this possible. And if you can't catch the show live, you can always catch it the next day on YouTube, Odyssey, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. So until next time, everybody, be free.